We're back with the most exciting intro of all time and a new host, your co-host. And Alex, thanks for joining me, man.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to do the same thing we do every week. We're going to shit talk about OU football, talk recruiting. Obviously, David Stone coming up like 5 days,
Yeah.
something like that this weekend. So we can kind of start there. David Stone is going to make his announcement, much anticipated announcement, where it could be Miami or it could be Oklahoma, or maybe Mel Tucker and the Spartans somehow come out of nowhere again and take over the recruitment. I mean, obviously, like myself and Brandon and Brumbaugh have talked about what we think. You being new to the show, you have the floor. What do you think about David Stone? Do you think Oklahoma really gets him?
Yeah, I think Oklahoma gets him. I just think he likes the attention. So part of me thinks that he's like kind of trying to get like the Miami hype up, just to like let people like keep people guessing and stuff. Just because like everybody's thought that like Oklahoma's been a foregone conclusion since the beginning. So I honestly think like he's just doing this just to get more just to drive up his NIL price also, and just to get more attention to his recruitment. So I think in the end, I think he does end up with OU.
I would agree. And there's the biggest thing with Stone, and I don't know, maybe you might disagree or agree. It just seems like he wants to keep people guessing. I don't even know if it's so much the attention, but I mean, if you think about it, the recruiting platforms and crystal balls, if these guys want it to be like their own decision and a big surprise and a big moment, crystal balls kind of start ruining it if people are right. So maybe it is a little bit of attention, but it could be like, I just got to get people off my back, assuming that I'm just going to go to OU. Let's think. And then Stone is going to be, it seemed like Michigan State was going to be a big player for a while. Mel Tucker was making a big push. I know it's being reported that it's really just Miami and Oklahoma at this point. And yeah, Lloyd mentioned it. I think it was like a week ago. He was quoted that Oklahoma is the best place for him for football, but Miami is the best place for his family. It seems like a very adult decision to have to make at 17 or 18 years old, to think about where your mom and siblings are going to be living, where you're playing football for 3 years. I mean, it is an interesting situation now with David Stone. It seems like wherever he goes is where his family will be.
Yeah, I think like the Miami thing. Yeah, like you mentioned, his mom likes OU, or his mom likes Miami. It's just I just don't understand like what's wrong with like the moms, like Peyton Bowen's mom, Williams Nwaneri's mom, now David Stone's mom. I don't know, but we just gotta figure out a way. I think I don't know. OU has to figure out a way to get the moms in. Just like I feel like, because that's honestly like that's our biggest issue with David Stone right now. You know, once if we can get the parents in, I mean that's basically in with the kids. So.
Yeah, and we talked about it with Peyton Bowen last year. You had to, I mean, his girlfriend was there, and I said it, Brandon said it. He's thinking with one of his heads.
Mm-hmm.
It just depends on the day, right? And then with other guys where you don't have a girlfriend to kind of use as like a secondary recruiting tool, because girlfriends rarely lose in recruitments. They end up usually where the guys end up where their girlfriend is. You saw it with I'm not sure if you saw it, Alex, but with Nicholas Harbor, I think he had like a girlfriend or super close friend at South Carolina, ended up going there over the other program. So, but the guys that don't have girlfriends, then you gotta go after the other woman in their life, which is their mom. If you can win over their mom, you probably have as good a shot of any, even if you're not shelling out an extraordinary amount of cash to get them to stay on campus. I know someone asked about Brandon earlier. Well, he'll be on later. It'll be me and Alex show for about 30-ish minutes. So welcome, Alex. Throw some questions in the chat. We'll talk about everything. But let's talk. We'll come back to recruiting because I want to talk a little bit about the football season because we are only 11 days away from the opening game. We've done some position breakdowns, but let's just talk about the team overall. Last year, obviously, very disappointing season. Go 6-7, including the bowl game. Looking at the schedule for this season, you got the minimum. You have to win 9 games, maybe even 10 games. Like I was looking at it today, Texas might be the only one where if you lose, regardless of by how much, you're like, okay, like they're supposed to be a super talented team.
Yeah.
You should beat everyone else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, definitely. I think I feel like we have an easy schedule. If honestly, if we didn't go 6-7 last year, if we went like 10-2, we probably would have been saying this is going to be an undefeated season. But just because we went 6-7 last season, we're like finding games that we're going to lose. So like, I think Texas is probably like a top school that we might lose to, and then honestly, I think I say we go 10-2. I think we lose maybe to Texas, and then probably another team. But I kind of want to see how the season goes. I'm a little optimistic, seeing how I think it can be pretty decent this year. So I still say 10-2 right now, but as of now, I think Texas might be our biggest competition for sure. And then either at that end of the schedule, BYU, TCU, that right there could kind of trip us up too. So.
I agree. 10-2 is probably the best expectation, and it's probably going to be every single year, unless you're like Georgia or Alabama, where you can realistically say we're going undefeated. I think most teams will 10-2 is kind of the expectation every year if they're good. I was looking at the schedule. Texas is like the one loss where you can see it on the schedule just on paper, and it might sound crazy, but I think the other loss is Kansas. They brought back Jalen Daniels. They still have, I think they still have Bean as their backup. So either way, they have a decent quarterback. They weren't terrible last year. I mean, they almost beat us when we did have Caleb Williams. Almost beat us last year. Did we lose? No, almost beat us last year.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, that might be the time.
Back, not Jalen Daniels.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we didn't even play their starting quarterback. So this is the first time we'll potentially see him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That game honestly could come in. Do you know what week that is?
It's later in the season. I'll check, but yeah, because it is later in the season, it could be again like one of those where the guys are gassed. I think it's in Lawrence. I'll double check the schedule, but I'm pretty sure it's in Lawrence.
Yeah, it is in Lawrence because this last year was in Norman. So. You're coming about you saying like them being gassed. I know they're like doing some football camp where like they're giving like people more days off and like not hitting as hard as they did last year. So hopefully like that is not like a consistent theme this year. So.
And here's Kansas could be in the situation like they were last year. I think they started 6-0 or 6-0, and then they kind of fell off there at the end. So it's possible. But they also lost their starting quarterback when they started losing. So there's like a balance there. Like, was it their quarterback, or was it just like the team got a little overconfident that they didn't suck like they normally suck? And who knows? That kid might actually end up being pretty decent and maybe even like a sneaky Heisman contender because he was really good when he was on the field last year.
I think before he got injured, he was like people were talking about him as like Heisman contender. So same thing could happen this year.
Yep. And I think one of the biggest things with this football team is, and the thing that people are going to be happy, pissed off, or just accepting of what's happening is probably actually more so happy and pissed off is the quarterback play. Dylan Gabriel was taking it on the shins last year, but when you look at it statistically, he wasn't that bad. He let me look up the numbers so that I have them exactly. But missing 2 whole games, basically 2.5 games, he ended up throwing. Sorry, should have had this pulled up before. I think it was like 62% completion percentage, over 3,200 yards, and Dylan Gabriel stats. Here we go. Okay. So he threw for 3,168 yards, 25 touchdowns, 6 picks, 62% completion. Like statistically, he wasn't terrible.
Yeah.
He wasn't great either.
I think what really it comes down to was just like the overthrows, like the accuracy. I remember like I think it was against Kansas, or I think it was actually against TCU. He had like Drake Stoops wide open for like a touchdown. He just like overthrew him, and that was like a consistent theme throughout the season. But that, and then honestly, like it was like kind of the receivers' faults too. Like Mims had a lot of drops, Baruch had some drops. So all last season it was just the whole offense in general. I wouldn't blame it on Dylan Gabriel specifically, but yeah, it was just, and then also like penalties. I remember, was it the Tech game that we had like a bunch of penalties when we could have scored. So
Mm-hmm.
just the whole offense had a fault, honestly.
And they just have to like actually play good team football.
Mm-hmm.
It's I mean, I don't know if you would agree, but I swear every time the offense would do something good, especially like after the bye week, the defense would just give up a quick touchdown, and vice versa. If the defense got a stop, no matter if it was creating a turnover, the few times they did, or getting a stop, 3 and out, then the offense would have the ball for less than a minute, and defense is right back out there.
Yeah, I mean, just look at the Oklahoma State game. Uh, like we would have lights out in the first half, and in the second half we couldn't do anything at all. So, and then
Yeah.
the defense was like performing in the second half. Like the defense did their job that game, but in the second half, the offense just couldn't do anything. And then that ended up spilling to West Virginia, which that was a game I still think we should have won. If like the weather wasn't that bad, yeah.
Well, they couldn't stop a running quarterback to save their lives last year. If Oklahoma State, I mean, you mentioned it, like the defense was playing really well, but if they were even a semi-competent football team last year, probably could have been a little bit more competitive because it seemed like CJ Colden could have had like 10 picks that game by himself because he was around the ball the entire time. And if you talk to like Oklahoma State fans, they hate the offensive coordinator. He's still there because apparently it's a very predictable offense, which I don't watch very much of their football, but given last year's game, it seemed like the team knew exactly what was going to be ran just looking at the personnel on the field. Another thing that's going to be highlighted this year will probably be the wide receivers, which you mentioned it last year, right? Or with a second ago. A lot of dropsies. They just couldn't keep a hold of the ball. But they now have Emmett Jones. I don't know how much a coach really can help with that scenario. If it's just, I don't know, making sure they're comfortable in the offense and maybe year two helps. And who's going to break out? Because we all expect Jalil to be the guy. But what if he's not? Then who's going to be the next guy?
I honestly think like it's just going to be a collection of like all the players. Like we've been hearing about Gavin Freeman and Andrew Anthony throughout fall camp. Like they're doing like amazing. We haven't been hearing much about Baruch. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Maybe it's just an expectation that he's going to be the number one guy. We'll see. Stoops is still going to be he's going to be like the Hunter Renfrow type of player. And then I think Nick Anderson, a lot of people are high on him. He has like an NFL body, so I know we'll see if he like pops on the scene. Jaquez Petaway, I know Brandon's a huge fan of him, so hopefully he lives up to Brandon's hype. We'll see.
Do you think that Jackson Arnold could step on the field this season?
Yeah,
as a starter, not just trash time.
I think he'll play meaningful snaps. I think like they'll have packages for him to go in the game and just just run certain plays. But like I think he'll play every game, meaningful snaps, not just trash time. But I don't know if like it'll be like a whole drive or anything. Maybe just like for a few plays, for a few consecutive plays. But I think he's definitely going to be like I'm pretty sure Levy has packages for him.
And obviously, like every fan would love to see him play. It just seems like because I want it to happen. I'm not against that idea. It would be really because it'd kind of be like Kyler Murray when it was him and Baker, and Kyler would come in every once in a while just to have one of those home run plays using his feet. Jackson can run, but I don't know like how much better he is as a runner than Dylan Gabriel. And then you're gonna put, either way, like it's not like either of them are Kyler Murray. They're not
Hmm.
super shifty and like extremely fast. They're just really good mobile quarterbacks. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong for saying that, but I just don't know what Jackson would bring in a different package other
I,
than more live arm.
I do think Jackson's a little bit faster than Dylan. I know like he was definitely more of a dual threat quarterback in high school. Like I remember seeing some games and he was definitely running a lot. So and I know he like made an emphasis about like wanting to run. So I think he wants to be like a dual labeled as a dual threat quarterback.
Yeah, and the good thing is that we do have Jackson now. So worst case scenario, if Dylan happens to go down for another game or two, the drop off isn't
Significant. Like
yeah significant. Like you're basically going to play the JV quarterback of a high school football team. It seemed like when Dylan wasn't playing, and then the other side of the football field, the defensive line, terrible last year. I mean, they started the year off well. Like I don't know about you, but first two games, I mean, Reggie was
three
playing out of his mind.
games.
Yeah, 3 games out of
Yeah.
his mind from Reggie. Ethan Downs looked good. Interior maybe a little questionable, but like they didn't look bad. And then we got into conference play, and it all just shit the
Yeah.
bed.
We couldn't get a sack. We could not get a sack to save our lives. It was yeah, it was bad.
No, and I think Brandon looked it up. Reggie was a sack leader, but 3 of those sacks came in the first 3 games. So I don't remember what the total was that he ended up
Hmm.
being, but boy, was it tough. And then, I mean, really, the entire defensive room. I mean, if you want to talk about it or give your starting group, because the 3 of us have,
Hmm.
it could be a whole new unit out there, like give or take a couple guys.
Yeah, I can start with the defensive line. I think like the defensive line is going to be. I'm hoping it's going to be improved. Like I think literally like the defensive ends that we had starting last year, Grimes and Downs, most likely are going to start. Right now, I would say just out of, like what I'm hearing out of fall camp, like I think Bothroyd's for sure going to start. I said our Mason Thomas before fall camp, but apparently like Trace Ford is killing it, so I can see Trace Ford starting at the other end spot. And then the inside in the interior, Dejon Terry, been hearing a lot on him, and then I think Jonah Laulu would probably get that other spot just because I feel like BV sent him to media days for a reason. Like you wouldn't send like just a guy that's switching positions for nothing. So I think Laulu and Jordan Kelly are going to be the defensive tackle spot, and then the nose tackle will be Dejon Terry and Isaiah Coe, and then our Mason Thomas, and then maybe Ethan Downs be backing up would be backups on the other end spots. So, but yeah, like just you can just tell by like we're gonna have basically a whole new front defensive line. So that turnover definitely is like a good thing. So,
And then you got your cheetah position, who I just I don't think there's anyone other than Dasan McCullough that should be starting, but obviously, like that's not the sentiment that a lot of people think. I mean, apparently, Justin Harrington is really showing out at that position now. Second year under this coaching staff, knowing the scheme a little bit better. I personally just don't see it. It feels like every single year that he's been on campus, you, he has a really good spring game or a decent spring game. You hear a lot about him going up to the season. Then like something happens when it comes to playing an actual football game where just there's a lot of mistakes that probably maybe he's overthinking. I don't know if it's just like overwhelming and he needs maybe more snaps in the early games so that he can kind of relax once he's on the field in important meaningful games. I personally just don't trust it, but obviously like things change every year.
yeah, with me when it comes to Harrington, I just got to see it to believe it. Just as like I remember seeing him in the TCU game whenever he went in, like he had a bunch of busts. Like it was him like just turning his head. It was like basically like him just messing up plays. So, but Gabe and Teddy, I don't know if you listen to Oklahoma Breakdown, they've been high on Justin Harrington. So, and they're there in practice. So we're not. So like I would say, we'll see what like they're saying that Justin Harrington's killing it in practice. So that, and then also I would say I know like McCullough like was like a good like he was like a high transfer target that we got, but he only has 1 year, like not less than a year in the system. Harrington has two on him, so we'll see. But I think Harrington, does get to start, but I just got to see if he can like keep that job.
Yeah, and I don't want to say that practice reps mean nothing because they clearly do, and the staff made it very clear last year. Like practice well, and you get to play. I think he's earned himself playing time. But I agree with you. Like if it's like real football, where like it's legit a guessing game, where you don't know what the offense is running anymore. Can you show out like you have been in practice? That's where he could lose all that playing time that he gained
Yeah.
throughout the summer and the spring and the fall. Then you've got the back end of the defense. Or I guess I skipped the linebackers. Probably one of the only spots in the defense where you've got a returning player and a returning starter and Danny Stutzman. Then you got the other linebacker position, which is, I guess, I don't think it's a big question, but some reporters think it's still up in the air on who the guy next to Danny Stutzman's going to be.
I think it'll be Jaren Panic. I mean, that's what I'm rooting for. I just think like he's he's like a different type of athlete. Like he never played defense up until he got to OU. So just seeing his potential last year, I kind of just want to see what he does this year. And then yeah, people want like people are saying McKenzie and also like Connor Neer. I know a lot of fans aren't happy to hear that name, but I know some people are high on him. So
Yeah, Connor Neer seems to have made some noise. I just like when you look at it as a whole, right? The reason Harrington is being thought of this highly this season is because he's got an extra year over Dasan McCullough at the with this system. But it doesn't seem like it's the same for Kanik and versus Neer. Like for some reason they're putting Neer above him. I get it. He has got more experience. He was very successful at his Ferris State, I think it was.
like that, yeah.
But Kanik, like you said, just a better, just raw athlete. You saw him win one game playing significant amount of time, and he led the team in tackles.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't see why you can't expect maybe not leading the team in tackles every game, but being right up there. And instead of Danny having to make however many plays he did last year, because Danny did lead the Big 12, but you also had, respectfully, David Agwegbu next to him, and he was extremely slow, especially when you compare him to Jaron.
Yeah.
So
No, I think like some people mentioned like they were kind of tinkering like in practice, like they're putting Danny Stutzman in the middle and then Jaron as the weak side linebacker. I feel like maybe that's like a year too late, but I think that's definitely like that was like a good idea just because like Jaren Panic is definitely like a lot faster. So and Stutzman being in the middle is definitely like him being the quarterback of the defense definitely would probably be better. But I think at the end of the day, there's I think Jaren's still going to be in the middle, and then Stutzman's probably going to be the weak side linebacker.
I would agree. So then going to the back end of the defense, we've got the defensive backs. Again, probably a spot where we're going to see the second of two returning starters on this defense. And Woody Washington on one side as a corner. I honestly probably there's probably going to be a total of three returning starters. I don't think Billy Bowman gets his job taken away. But some people do think that the incoming freshman, Peyton Bowen, could start taking some of that playing time away.
Yeah, no, I'll start with safety. I think it'll be Pearson and Bowman to start. I think half midway through the year, I think Peyton is not going to take Bowman's spot. I think he's going to take Pearson's spot. I think Bowman was arguably our best player on defense last year when healthy, so I don't see him losing his job. But we haven't really heard much about him throughout fall camp. I know he did like he gained some good weight throughout the off season, so I'm hoping he has like a breakout season. Even though he was still kind of like probably like I said, arguably our best defender last year. I hope he just like adds on top of that. And then for the corners, yeah, I think Woody starts, and then I want to say Gentry starts. I think Gentry would probably be like a little bit more advanced right now if like he didn't have that episode that he had in the spring. So I think that kind of like that sadly kind of just like holds him back a little bit. We hear like Josiah Wagner's name a lot and Macari Vickers. So right now I'm saying it's a Gentry, but I can see Josiah winning that job too.
Yeah, and I think that's where you'll see more of the freshmen get opportunities, the DBs, because you did lose um, a couple guys when it comes to a more experienced depth, but you all and then a good player last year in CJ Golden, but you gained really talented freshmen that could be taking some time away because looking at the room, I mean Gentry coming back for a second year, and he probably had the most time to actually get to play a lot overall last year. Got the first pick of the season for the team, and you never really heard much about Jaden Rowe. I think he was hurt a little bit last year. Robert Spears Jennings, he might be a guy that just got dethroned because of the transfers coming in. But then you still have Kanai Walker that's in that room. I mean, who knows where he's at? But you, like you said, you hear a lot of Josiah Wagner right now. You hear a lot of Makari Vickers. So the depth is, I think, how it stacks is going to be interesting to watch, especially for the first 3 games. I think it'd be really interesting to see who comes in once OU has a big enough lead where they're going to rest Woody and Billy and Danny and see who's going to be the guys, the 2 deep.
Yep.
Now, looking at the offensive side, we talked about the quarterback. Honestly, I think that the only other questionable or like the one you can kind of really talk about is probably going to be the wide receivers. Jalil Farouk, I think, kind of penciled in. Drake Stoops, I don't know if he's the number 2, 3, 4. I think that's kind of where people are like, I don't think he's a number 2 guy. Could be, a really good slot player. But who's that third guy? Or who's the number 2 wide receiver? Because that's basically the question mark. And the guy that could end up being the number 1 by the time the season's over.
Yeah, before fall camp, I like literally right before fall camp started, we started hearing a lot of Gavin Freeman. I know he's performing in fall camp, and then I think and Angelo Anthony kind of might. I think right now I might lean to Angelo Anthony just because like he's a different type of player compared to like Stoops and Freeman. I know they're both like for Freeman and Angelo Anthony are both like burners, but Angelo does have the height on him, so I think that's where it kind of he has the advantage. So I can see it being Farouk, Stoops, and Anthony. But honestly, I think Freeman can still be labeled as a starter just because he's probably I wouldn't be shocked if he has like the most receiving yards out of everybody at the end of the season.
Gavin Freeman, really?
Yeah.
I mean, people are super, super high on him right now. So him, I really think that if Jalil doesn't show out and like looks like a true number 1 by game 4, you're gonna start seeing Gavin Freeman get way more touches.
Yeah.
I mean, Brandon's been on this guy's bandwagon since the day he said he was going to be a Sooner and Jaquez Petaway. He could be the guy that comes in and just turns the offense around in the receiving game because he's got the speed. You're looking at his high school football tape, super shifty, and if he can transfer it super quickly to the collegiate level, I mean, let's be honest, the wide receiver position, as long as you know what route you're supposed to be running in a given play, you can do the job really well as a true freshman. It doesn't take as much knowledge as like being an offensive lineman or a quarterback or most positions on defense. I think corner you could probably have success early, but there's still a little bit of adjusting because of the speed of the game. Wide receiver, I think, is just you got it. And you can, if you got it when you're younger, you can do it right off the bat.
Yeah. I actually have a kind of a hot take on Farouk. I think I don't think he's gonna be Sooner next year. Either he enters the draft or he enters the transfer portal.
Really?
So, yeah. I don't think. I feel like if he doesn't perform this year, I think some players are gonna outplay him. So, it's on him. Like he has the talent. It's just we got to see it. Like last year, like he only had like 400 yards. Like you would think he would have more just because like he was our number 2 and like people were high on him. We're saying like, oh, this guy's gonna be great. He only had like 400 yards, so we'll see.
I honestly, I don't think that's crazy because if you try to really look at it objectively and not just think, holy crap, that's crazy because he's supposed to be the guy this year.
Mm-hmm.
You have a new wide receiver coach who's bringing in 6 new guys from 5 new guys.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, in 24. You've got transfers that are still there. and the newer one in Brennan Thompson, who could be very good as well. Then you already have a 2025 class that's got 3 wide receivers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and could have a 4th by the time the football season's over. Yeah, so like this, you might be 100% on the nose with that, because if he doesn't look like he could be in the NFL by the end of this year, and maybe like the only reason I could see it not going the way that you mentioned is if he has like a good enough season where he might be like a 4th round pick, and he thinks that one more year with a guy like Jackson Arnold as his quarterback, where, I mean, the right-handed thrower, probably a little bit easier for him to follow the ball when it's in the air, because it does turn a little different when it's a lefty. Mm-hmm. And he can show that, hey, I can really compete at the next level and get going from like a 4th or 5th round pick to a 2nd or 3rd round pick.
Yeah, we'll see. There's definitely like, it's going to be a crowded room next year. Like, the only person I see leaving was because he's running out of eligibility is Drake Stoops. So like, everyone else will come back. So like, it's literally going to be like a crowded room, and I wouldn't be shocked to see if like Emmett Jones like pushes some people away, because we still got JJ Hester, LV Bunkley Shelton, Jaden Gibson. There's still, or DJ Graham. There's still
Nick Anderson.
Yeah, Nick Anderson. So many receivers in that room. It's just, hopefully like some of them just stand out more than others. So.
I definitely agree. That I like the take on Faruka, and I don't think it's like out of this world. Honestly, I think we talked about it on the show when we did our wide receiver breakdown. I said that I think Drake Stoops could be the guy for the team, because he's like, when you think about him last year, he was probably the guy where if the ball's in his direction, if it's anywhere near his radius, he's gonna get it. Probably not even if it's a little bit ahead of him, the dude's gonna try to do everything he can to make the play. I don't know if you could say the same thing about Jalil. Not that he doesn't have the ability, but Drake is like the sure-handed player. And I don't see why he can't elevate to be the number 1 guy.
Yeah, no, Drake definitely has the best hands on the team. And it's not even close. It's just, he just lacks a little bit of speed and probably just a little bit of height too. If he was like 6 feet, probably a little bit faster, it'd be over. But Stoops is going to be like, it's just his ceiling isn't as high. Like we know what his floor is, and his ceiling, it just isn't as high as like other players. Like Stoops will probably just have like 5 catches at most, like a game. Like he'll be like when it's like 3rd and short, he's like the go-to guy. I know like they call like Hunter Renfrow like third and Renfrow. So I think that's exactly what Stoops is. I think like he's like basically the same player as Hunter Renfrow, same height, basically almost same speed maybe, and just Renfrow is like 5th year senior. I know like Stoops is like a 6th year now, but Stoops is like the reliable receiver. But it's just his ceiling isn't as high as like say like Nick Anderson or Wes Petaway.
Yeah, for sure, and that's probably what's holding him back. But I think going into like the end of this year, like when you start looking at the NFL, he'll probably be a guy where probably not going to be a first, second, 3rd round pick, but once 4th round comes along, a team that needs a decent slot receiver, he might be their guy there in the later rounds. And we've got someone joining us now. Brandon, welcome in, bud.
What's up, boys? How are we doing tonight?
Holy shit, you are loud.
Sorry, dude. Turn this shit down a little bit. Yeah, I'm a little juiced up. How are you? I've been watching on the car ride home. Sounds like it's been a fun chat.
Yeah, talking about the starters. You want to go through your starting group? Basically the entire thing, because we've done all of it.
Sorry, I'm eating too right now. It's crazy, right?
God, you're fat.
Dude, it's been a day. All right, these days are busy and long. I agree with what you guys were saying defensively, for the most part. I don't know that Reggie Pearson gets his spot taken by Peyton Bowen. I like Reggie Pearson. I think he's going to play a lot. I think he's going to be a guy that can mix in even as a linebacker sometimes. He's going to be all over the field, I think. I do think there's room for Peyton Bowen somewhere. It's like a situational packages. I think they're going to rotate them in and out. I think Gentry Williams will be the starter at corner. I think Jaquez Petaway is going to play a lot. I think he's going to be special. You guys know that. I still wish his name was Jaquazy. Jaquazy go crazy. I would fucking lose my mind. I would have that shit everywhere. Yeah, I think Gavin's going to be good. I mean, for the most part, I listened to what you guys were saying, and I'm agreeing.
All right, so the last spot we have to really talk about, when it's probably not really any question marks. I guess really the only question is who's going to be the left guard in the offensive line. Seems like those guys are pretty solidified in their roles. You've got Walter on the left, Tyler on the right, and then next to Tyler will be McCade, Matt Tower, Andrew Rame. Then the right guard spot is the big question mark at the moment. Could it be Schaefer? Is it going to be Jake Taylor? Is it going to be Savion Bird?
Savion Bird.
Why I forgot about him, but it seems like Savion might be the favorite going into the season.
Yeah, I say Savion Bird. Like, the only thing that like gave me pushback before the season before fall camp was the fact that he like lost so much weight. That I think was like a big like issue with him, but apparently he's like gained it back. Like, I know George Floyd tweeted just like earlier today that he's like at 305 now. So I think like on the roster he's like listed at 288, which is pretty light. So for a guard especially, but now that he's at 305, I think that's definitely like a lot better.
Oh yeah, and then and they're all experienced players. They should know the offense for the most part. I mean, outside of Walter Rouse, but he's coming in, I think, with one more year of eligibility, so he knows how to play football at the collegiate level.
He's a smart kid too.
Yeah, I mean, he went to Stanford for the first 4 years of his college career.
I considered Stanford back in the day.
Did you?
Just ultimately decided Oklahoma was the better fit.
The real question is, did Stanford consider you?
Oh, 100%. They were like, dude, why don't you come run this shit for us? And I was like, I thought about it. Just, like I said, ultimately decided to stay home. But, he's good. The holding comment that Keaton dropped, I think is a great comment. But as long as whoever that holder is just remembers to do laces out, we'll be good.
I'm assuming he's going to be a punter because it was Turk. It was Turk last year, so I don't know why they decided to do it.
Speaking of Michael Turk, I'm so sad the Dolphins cut him.
That's something we can talk about too. NFL related. I mean, that's closer than, or no, it's not. The preseason's almost done, but the starting quarterback is starting to get named, and to some people's surprise, I personally didn't think it was. Baker Mayfield was named the starter for Tampa.
Fuck yeah, he was. That's Kyle Trask is dog shit. We saw it firsthand. Like, literally, that dude. And they're gonna say whatever, that they didn't have all their starters in there and this, that, and whatever. But like, his first pass of the game, that was pick six. It doesn't matter who the receiver was. I mean, my fat ass could have picked that off, and I probably would have housed it. Like, that was just an awful ball on an out route that was just very easily jumped. And then he threw a couple other ones that just weren't very good balls. I mean, that being said, he did throw a couple balls in the preseason that I was like, holy shit, that's a pretty good ball. But the pass Baker Mayfield made, his first touchdown pass as a Buccaneer, if you will, if you count the preseason, where he, in the back corner of the end zone there, that's one of the prettiest footballs I've ever seen. And I really hope Six can make something happen, because in the grand scheme of things here, this is like his last chance as an NFL QB1. If he shits the bed this year, it's good luck.
Yeah, he's probably a career starter or career bench guy. Maybe it might just be the end of Baker Mayfield in football if he doesn't at least look good. I think the Rams' performance kind of saved him a little bit last year.
Also, don't we have college football Saturday? I know for a fact we have this weekend. Isn't Utah playing Saturday, or it's Thursday?
Here, let me pull it up. Because I think
on Saturday, for Brandon's favorite team, USC plays.
That's Jose's favorite team, baby.
And then I think like Notre Dame plays also, like, or as far as like team, those two.
We can start our pick segment again.
Let's do some picks right now. That's what I was thinking. Yeah. Also, do you guys have anything to drink alcohol wise? Because it feels like this is a lame show. Listening on the drive home, fellas, I gotta say, like, I was like, fuck, man, let's show some life in here. Someone needs to start ripping shots, or
I don't have any alcohol.
Doing something.
I have hard liquor, but that seems a little aggressive for a Tuesday.
I don't think it's aggressive enough.
Well, maybe I'll grab some in a minute. But the first two games of the college football season, week 0, you got Navy versus Notre Dame. Notre Dame is a 20.5-point favorite. And San Jose State versus USC. And USC's 31-point favorites. I mean, my picks are going to be both favorites to cover.
Can you say that again?
Both favorites?
No.
So
Start from the
USC,
top.
USC versus San Jose State. The Trojans are 31-point favorites. Notre Dame versus Navy. The Irish are 20.5-point favorites.
I don't think that the Irish will cover. I think USC will, unfortunately. I agree. Although I would love to see San Jose State that would be so hot. But I think they'll cover against San Jose State. But I don't think that Notre Dame will beat Navy by 20.
I think I'm with Jose. I think both teams cover.
Yeah. I mean, maybe I just don't know enough about Navy. Do they just run the ball like Army does? Or do they actually pass
I think
the ball
so.
occasionally?
Doesn't like every service school on the planet do that?
I don't know. I figured some of them would throw it. You might
You
as
should have
well.
played for Army.
Might as well. I mean, I don't think it's crazy. Probably, that I bet is probably going to be a very split bet going to the weekend. Notre Dame to cover versus Navy split or Navy covering or Navy not getting their ass kicked by 21.
Yeah, Florida versus Utah. That's the game
next
of the
Thursday.
week for week 0, is it not?
That's next Thursday, I think.
Yeah, that's next
Shit,
Thursday.
it is next Thursday. Damn it.
So we'll talk about that next week.
You guys
The
are streaming the whole day.
line will probably change between now and next Thursday. Apparently Navy had a saucy quarterback a couple years ago. He could still be there. They've probably got COVID year still, so might be his 10th year in college. Like, what's his nuts? What's his name? Dude was at West Virginia last year. Now he's at Rice.
JT Daniels.
JT Daniels. I swear he graduated the same year as I did from high school.
No, he actually he reclassified. He was supposed to be 2019, but then reclassified into the 2018 class. So
That's crazy. Almost 10 years. That guy, he should try to gain some more eligibility. Try to be the first 10-year player. So if you ask Brandon, Stetson Bennett is probably the worst quarterback alive. And he just got lucky to be a dog.
I can't stand that guy, and he did, because the argument that we had, Alex, I don't know if you've seen this, and I'll stand by this argument, and I would actually like to hear the comments here about this, because I have a feeling I'm right here. What we talked about is if you swapped, we were talking about the national championship game, so I believe, if you swap Max Duggan and put him on Georgia, and you put fucking Stetson Bennett on Texas Christian, the exact same result is going to happen. Max Duggan is going to look like a star out there, throwing to these Georgia receivers behind that Georgia offensive line. He's every bit as good as Stetson Bennett. He just didn't get to look that way because he's, one, not 32 years old playing against 18-year-olds, and two, he's playing against Georgia and not with Georgia. I don't think Stetson Bennett is anything special. I think Max Duggan and a handful of other quarterbacks who might be considered average look just like he does if they play for Georgia.
I would kind of agree, but I would say, like, I remember watching the Ohio State Georgia games. Stetson Bennett, I think Ohio State scored and Stetson Bennett came back. He was clutch in the fourth quarter, like within a minute. Just took them down with ease, he with so much confidence. Like he has that dog in him. I don't know if I know Max Duggan kind of brought TCU back against K-State, but then they didn't end up winning. But I don't know. I feel like Stetson Bennett is. You're giving him a little. I think he's a little bit better than what you do.
Yeah, dude.
I disagree. Do you see what Stink Ass Cat said? Because I agree with Stink Ass Cat here. Stink Ass Cat, you're a real one. Every single show you show up, you just drop.
He hedged his bet there. He did a classic hose / coward / Bayless move there. He said Duggan was better, although didn't look like it. You can't say he's better, but then not played like he was better. That's a classic hedging your bet.
Sorry, I keep trying to mute myself because I'm eating these pita chips, and somebody commented that they can hear me, and I'm sure you don't want to hear that, but yeah, boys, we're here. I forgot what I was gonna say, so now I'm just like Michael Scott in The Office, where he said sometimes he'll just start a sentence and you don't really know where it's going. That just happened to me in real life.
Well, we can go back to talking about probably the thing that people want to hear about the most, because you weren't here, Brandon. David Stone committing this Saturday. Could be to Miami. Could be to Oklahoma. Could be to Alabama. I don't know.
What about Andy Bass coming up Thursday?
Yeah, but that I think is a little bit more of a secure. Like, Oklahoma seems to have a pretty good lock on that.
You're telling me you're not worried about Syracuse coming through in the waning hours to secure that one? Or
personally, no. But hey, you know what?
Again, it's Kansas State, right?
Kansas State, Syracuse.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I guess K-State could try to make a push there, but it seems like we're keeping the in-state kid in-state there. David Stone, though, was quoted about Miami being the place for his family versus Oklahoma being the place for football. Someone put it in the chat earlier. It is kind of crazy that and Alex and I were talking about it. It's crazy that he's thinking about where his family's going to live, where he's only probably going to play at whatever school he's going to be at for 3 years, because he's one of the best defensive linemen in the country. Then after that, you're going to the NFL. You don't get to pick where you're going to live for the next 6 years of your life.
He has that. He's so talented. He's so good. I agree with you. But I mean, I think if you go to a place like Miami, which I think is dog shit. They don't have their own stadium. There's so many bad things I say about this university all the time, and I always will. I think they suck. But you go there, you're not going to be coached as well. I know they have Jason Taylor on their coaching staff, who I think is one of the greatest players of all time, my favorite Dolphin ever. But he's more working with those defensive end type guys, and I'm sure he could help David Stone out a little bit. But I just think he'd benefit so much more playing under Todd Bates. And again, we talk about following the visits on this program. We've been locked in on him to Oklahoma for so long. I am not going to hedge. He's gonna commit to Oklahoma on Saturday. It's just a stressful process going through, and especially just on the heels of this, Williams-Nwaneri debacle thing that unfolded. That kind of I think stunned a little bit of stunned some of us, and sucked ultimately that he committed to Missouri. But I don't think the two are related. I still think Stoney is coming home.
I'm with you here. I think this one is. It seems like Oklahoma's got a big enough lead that it's gonna take having to actually move a mountain to get David Stone to commit to not Oklahoma.
His sister's at Oklahoma, isn't she?
Yeah, I think she's getting her master's or something at OU. So he's got family. Yeah, I don't know. I just think it's interesting that he had to think he's considering his family and where they're gonna live for 3 years. Is he gonna just take his? I agree. And then is he gonna take his family to wherever the NFL takes him? What if he goes to freaking Buffalo if they end up sucking for 1 year and he gets drafted by them in
or
top
Cleveland
10?
Or fucking Detroit? Imagine going to Detroit, dude. I would rather live in fuck you name it. I'll probably pick it over Detroit.
The Dolphins might suck enough that they could take him, so he wouldn't have to move if he did it.
The Dolphins are going to be good, but that's a different thing. Alex, do you agree with us on Stoney to Oklahoma? Do you think it's happening?
Yeah, I definitely think he's going to commit to OU. Like I said earlier, I think he kind of just wants. I feel like he's putting that Miami smoke out there just because everybody has already predicted him to go to OU since he first got offered, essentially. So I think he just wants smoke out there just to bring more anticipation to his commitment decision.
All right. And he's been mentioned twice now. Different 5-star defensive lineman. Dominic McKinley. Forgot his first name there for a second. I think that one would be a huge upset for if Oklahoma won. Other Texas and LSU would be upset in that situation. Alex actually had a take on this before we started recording, so I'm going to let you go first. Then we'll round robin to Brandon.
My gut just says he's going to end up at Texas, but I don't know. I'm hoping it's OU. I think if David Stone, if and when David Stone commits this weekend, hopefully he like recruits him hard. I know like the 5 stars recruiting other 5 stars definitely has like an effect, but we'll see. It's kind of trending towards Texas, but anything can happen in recruiting.
No, I have the same idea. I think the timing of McKinley's commitment is the only thing that's playing a helping hand in the Sooners' pursuit of him, if you will, because again, he's committing after David Stone commits in days afterwards. So like Alex said, that's the same thing. I hope Stone, his first thing that he needs to be doing as a Sooner, or even right now, because the kid obviously knows where he's going, so he needs to be in his ear right now this whole week, like, hey man, let's build this power line, because obviously you lost out on Williams and Wary, but there's some dogs still out there, and I think Stone is gonna be that the glue that holds them all together, just because he's the guy in the class, and him being there is only going to help us with McKinley. I agree, it's a long shot, but it doesn't suck that Stone should be a Sooner before his commitment. And I still think we get some other guys like Nigel Smith and Okoye and stuff. And I think if you're a 5-star defensive lineman, I think the idea of playing alongside a fellow 5-star defensive lineman in David Stone, 5-star defensive line in the 2022 class or 2023 class in PJ Adebore, and then these high level 4-stars in Nigel Smith and Okoye, other guys that are trending well. I think the prospects of playing with guys like that, the idea of playing with dudes like that, is going to be a lot more than going to play at fucking Texas, because they're shit. Like they're just not very good.
Definitely agree there.
I think Colin Simmons, they ended up getting Colin Simmons, so I feel like he's definitely like going hard after Dominic McKinley. I mean, if we're gonna say David Stone is gonna go after McKinley, we got to.
Doesn't work for them.
We'll see. I hope not, but we'll see.
No, it probably does work for them, but no, I don't know. Stone
making a good
Stone is greater.
Well, the biggest thing that OU might need to try to recruit against is how much closer Austin is to Dominic's family than Norman is. Even though now we're in the SEC, so they might get to see him a little bit more often. Texas is still much closer of a drive, so that might be a big thing, because apparently family is a huge deciding factor for him. I don't foresee his family moving like it seemed some families do to wherever the kid is going to end up going to school. But I do agree. I think looking at OU and the schedule of recruitment over the next 2 weeks, or I guess 3 weeks. You got Stone this weekend, or Bass Thursday. I don't want to forget about him. Stone this weekend, then potentially Dominic McKinley. If you carry enough momentum with Stone, I think that helps you a ton. And then McKinley sandwiched in.
I'm gonna go check the fridge, see if we have an alcohol, boys. I'll be back in like 30 seconds.
Sounds good. McKinley is sandwiched between him and Nigel Smith. Between Stone and Nigel Smith. So I think most people assume Nigel Smith is going to be a Sooner since he canceled his Texas visit. He's going to, it seems like Oklahoma's got a very big lead, because you never really saw any big trends after his official visits. You got 2 guys that are very talented and big-time names on the defensive line going after you. I think that would help OU's case. I don't know if it's going to be enough, though.
Yeah, no, I honestly think Nigel Smith is, I wouldn't say silently committed, but I think Nigel Smith's been I think even since this time last year, Nigel Smith has been wanting to go to OU. Just because, I know, Parker Thune has been, on that recruitment. He's been saying since, almost around this time last year that Nigel Smith is wanting to go to OU. It's just, he probably would have committed by now. It's just, I know he wants to commit in front of, when, his new stadium. Have you guys seen that new thing? Where he plays high school? Yeah, looks like the college stadium's crazy.
Yeah, and
where's he at, Melissa?
Melissa.
Yeah. Melissa, Texas. Apparently, it's gonna be like a big ceremony. I can't remember if it's before the game or at halftime, but
yeah, I don't know.
It's gonna.
So it's gonna be a similar to Makari Vickers and what Jacoby Johnson did.
Yeah.
I guess Jacoby Johnson didn't do it at a game, did he? I know it was at the stadium, but it wasn't a game.
It during like Mustangs like celebration or something like that. It was like either before a game or a week before a game, something like that.
Another guy to talk about is Grant Bricks, or the way Brum likes to say it, Bree. 4-star offensive lineman. It's been reported that a decision could come anytime now, or who knows, the National Signing Day. This is, again, kind of like McKinley, where the recruitment is kind of silent when it comes to what is publicly known. But trends are going in OU's direction, and that clearly helps, especially with interior linemen. And because I've said it over the last, looking back at last year's recruiting cycle, and even a little bit the year before, you got a lot of tackles that played mostly tackle in high school, so you'd want to probably develop them at those tackle positions. Didn't get too many guys that played a lot of interior offensive line outside of Joshua Bates. So getting a guy like Grant Bricks is going to be important for depth and, you know, having good play on the offensive line. And I mean, Coach B, the talent is 100% there because Coach B is going after him. I think we just all got to trust that's, no matter the ranking, he's good enough to play for Oklahoma. Just can he secure that commitment? Because you've got Nebraska and Kansas State going after him, who are closer in proximity to where his family lives.
You can lead us, Alex.
All right. Yeah, no, I think with Bricks, I think it's down to OU and Nebraska. I think the biggest issue is that Nebraska's like an hour and a half from his home. So like, and he's like a hometown kid that likes being like where he's at. But as far as like that's what Parker Boone's been saying. I know Parker Boone's been up there like a lot, and so I feel like that's our only like disadvantage. But I will say like if you can live within like the next 2-3 weeks, I think it'll be OU. But if it just drags on, I start to worry a little bit. That's where I'm at.
I just like Grant Bricks. To steal Jimmy Satterfield's comment, also go Dolphins, Jimmy. Jimmy's an in-house Dolphin, as you know, host. He's a Bricks house. I thought that was a good comment. Yeah, the dude is like 6'6", 285. He's like everything you need in a tackle in the SEC moving forward. The offensive line recruiting class as a whole for 2024 has not been I don't want to say it's bad, but it's not been one of our stronger positions recruited so far this cycle. I think it would be a big get. I'm just always going to sunshine pump on this program and say he's going to be a Sooner. And again, I think kind of like I'm talking about with McKinley, even though I think it's a long shot. I think the idea of playing at Oklahoma with these defensive line that should be a part of this class is more exciting than what Texas has. With Grant Bricks, I think it comes down to being coached by the best offensive line coach in the country is better than not being coached by the best offensive line coach in the country. And I think that's what ultimately is going to win out. If he's a hometown kid, we just need to grow some corn around the Norman area, and he's not going to tell the difference. Iowa and Nebraska, it's just a bunch of corn. So all we got to do is put some cornfields and shit in places. Maybe, with the place that Sugars once stood, we just put a cornfield there. Or like a little mini corn patch, and he can just fucking run around and play in the corn.
Shout out Stink Ass Cat, as always. And this is 100%. If you want to win Super Bowls, OU's a place. Because Kansas City is going to be drafting you by the time you get to the NFL.
We got to get Walter Rouse to talk to him.
Yeah. I mean, it would be... Like, you gotta, if you're Coach B, you gotta use the arsenal of offensive linemen that you have on campus now and that you have in the NFL. Like, I think Creed Humphrey helps a lot when it comes to showing up to recruiting events. Maybe Orlando Brown. I don't know 100%, but I know I've seen multiple pictures of Creed Humphrey being there with recruits. Brody asked the question, what percent would you put on Bricks? I don't know who Bowen
When you talking about Eli.
Eli Bowen. I forgot that there's a second one. Being committed by September 10th. I don't know.
I think Grant Bricks will be committed by September 10.
I'm the opposite. I think Bowen probably commits first. I think Bowen will probably lock it up by the first week of September.
I
Now,
don't know.
here's a serious question. If Eli Bowen commits to Texas, which I don't think is going to happen, but if it does that create a fucking disastrous situation for the Sooners? Because I mean, I don't think even if Eli were to commit to Texas, that Peyton would jump ship just to go play with him. I mean, he's the older brother. The older brother is not supposed to follow the younger brother. So I don't necessarily think he would. But it kind of sucks. Like if I were a Texas fan, I would be saying it doesn't suck that we have Eli Bowen. So I think for us, it would kind of suck if he commits. I don't think it's going to happen. But if he were to commit to Texas, do you guys think that there is not necessarily a panic button to push, but like a really start monitoring the Peyton Bowen situation and stuff like that going on?
I would personally be slightly worried just because like Peyton Bowen just likes the I don't know, he has he did this last year where you guys we saw he committed to Oregon less than 24 hours later he committed to OU, so I can't rule out anything with Peyton Bowen, but at the same time I feel like that would definitely diminish his character, and you wouldn't want that, especially for NFL scouts and stuff, him doing all that and then it just end up transferring to the rival a year later. So it would benefit him not to do that just because all the stuff surrounding him that happened in December.
And it also wouldn't. There's no, but even outside of looking at the future in the NFL, I don't know how much that actually benefits him. And Eli, if we remember, when Peyton was being recruited by everyone, Eli was the one that apparently wanted to be more so at OU, and then Peyton kind of followed.
Did you see Jimmy chopping heat in the comments again? He's right though.
I mean, we talked about it earlier.
As long as Peyton's girls at OU were fine. I agree.
She's there. I thought she went to SMU or something.
No, she's still. I think she still plays soccer there.
Because the coach left, so that's when Ron Wesco's sister left, and I think Peyton Bowen's girlfriend left to SMU.
I'd have to dig into that.
Somebody just commented and said that she is indeed at SMU, which sucks because that was the greatest Twitter post of all time when OU women's soccer just posted her just sitting on the bleachers or whatever, and just I don't know if they put a caption on. I think they just put her picture. That was fantastic. Probably the best, like I said, the best Twitter post ever.
Oh yeah, it was very good fun. And then, but I really don't think Eli would go to Texas. I mean, I guess it's possible, but it seems more likely that he lands at Oklahoma. Then, easier for parents, easier for him and his brother. And who knows? I mean, looking at Eli, he is smaller in stature. So you'd assume he plays safety or nickel at the college level. He's clearly very talented. I think that's just the biggest thing going against him. His stature. He's kind of a small dude, especially for what Oklahoma's recruiting at the defensive back spot.
Then I would also say Texas kind of has their defensive back slot though. I think Kobe Black's probably going to end up there, and then I think they got another corner. I think Tanner Wilson, top 200, top 100 player. So they got their corners locked up. So I feel like if Eli Bowen was supposed to commit, he would have already committed to Texas. I think he'll end up there.
He doesn't have a date, does he? I know he just has the top two.
I feel like he's going to be that guy that just drops a net in.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he's going to set a date.
Yeah, which I'm a fan of. I'm kind of tired of having an announcement about an announcement personally. I've talked about it with Brandon, but I guess it's a trend now. It's a trend. Another defensive back we haven't really talked about much is Devon Jordan. Is it Devon or Devin?
I think it's Devon.
Oh, is it Devon?
He played.
He's a UHS product.
He is a UHS product, so his comparisons at the collegiate level haven't turned out so great. But he could be the one to turn the tide.
Jay Brown was pretty good.
Well,
he's a good college corner.
He's there's the jury's still out on him in the NFL. I think he could be good in the NFL. He made some plays with Seattle, but
all I'm saying
Trey Brown was a above average level NCAA corner.
Union High School to college is like Ohio State quarterbacks to the NFL.
Except we have one.
Lots of hype.
We have one in Trey Brown. Ohio State has 0 NFL quarterbacks.
No, they have them.
Justin Fields.
They're just not great.
You say Justin Fields? He's
a good fantasy quarterback.
Yeah, dude.
He's not bad, yeah. Is he a Georgia Bulldog, though?
No, he's not.
He was only there for like a day. But maybe that's why he's good, because he didn't start at Ohio State.
It's possible. But then is Joey Burrow a Buckeye? Because he did start at Ohio State. And was at
Doesn't work
LSU.
that way.
Just saying. Food for thought.
Dude, look at that. Trey Brown had a pick last week.
I saw that. I think it was actually last night. Did they play last night? Or maybe it was Sunday. It was relatively recent. But yeah, I mean, that's basically all I got. Do you guys want to... I guess we already made our picks for this weekend's games. I got USC and Notre Dame covering.
Isn't there more games than that? I know those are like the two marquee, if you will, because those are the only top 25 teams playing. But there's still Hawaii and Vanderbilt is a matchup for the ages.
Is it?
I saw the line for that. I think Vanderbilt's like a 17.5 point favorite, which blows my mind. Like, how bad is Hawaii? Like, I know Hawaii's bad, but like, they're 17-point dogs to Vanderbilt bad.
I mean, Vanderbilt is closer to where most kids will probably live or are from than Hawaii. So proximity never plays in favor for Hawaii, even for Hawaiian players, because most of them end up going to the mainland.
It doesn't make any sense to me why Hawaii can't build an absolute powerhouse, because, like, dude, if I was 18 or 19 and I can just convince all my other 18, 19-year-old buddies to move with me to Hawaii and play football for 4 years, and I was an elite level athlete, I would build just something disgusting at Hawaii, and we would never lose.
I don't think you're wrong. They just don't have the money for it.
They're getting full-ride scholarships, I'm assuming here. Oh, Hawaii doesn't have the money to offer
the University of Hawaii to have I'm sure they do offer scholarships. I'm talking about like field a very good program. Pretty sure their stadium is like super run down.
What about Broganowski?
What's up?
Michael Broganowski. Mike Wazowski.
Broganowski. I'm trying to remember. He's supposed to be on campus for the Arkansas State game.
Yeah.
Who knows? That decision keeps getting pushed back. So that could be this season's Peyton Bowen. Guy that OU was in the lead in early, then gives it up. And maybe and he was supposed to make a decision in the summer, got pushed back. Now a decision is pending. There's not a date announced, but
yeah, I think
no one really knows.
Dad said they're trying to get it before mid-October or something like that, but they said it was going to be by July, so I don't know if we can really take it. So
I mean, I think it's not a huge deal, but you'd assume there seems to be something where a lot of things are going to be pushed back because they don't really know where they want to go. We'll take.
There's one of them that's pretty good. Do you think OU still finishes top 10 recruiting class? Yes.
Yeah. Where?
I think David Stone alone just puts you in the top 10 class. It's just however you finish out the class. I think if you land Okoye and Nigel Smith, there's a chance you can get in the top 7.
Yeah, I agree. I think your beard is safe, unfortunately, with the Williams-Nwaneri decision, but I still think it is a top. Yeah, I agree. Probably 7 or 8.
Yeah, I think 5 is still possible. Not likely, but possible.
Now, if we miss on David Stone, then it's gonna be a disaster in this program. I might call in.
You can't call in. You have 0 sick days left.
Dude, I've been here for 3 years and I'll get 1 sick day.
You took you took most of football season off.
I did. I had vacation.
Cool. I think we could call it there.
Alex, hold on. Any chance that we get by National Signing Day that Williams-Nwaneri is a Sooner? This is something that Jose and I have talked about at length. There's some comments in here that also don't agree he's going to stick it out at Missouri the entire time. What say you?
I say, yeah, there's a chance, but I'm not getting my hopes up. I think him just like putting, if you guys saw having like OU gear on at their niche last week. I don't know if that was like him just like trolling us or what, but or like the opposite, him like still like giving us love. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like he committed to Missouri so he can take that money, is what I'm assuming. But like, if he decommits, does he have to give the money back?
I don't entirely know, to be honest with you, because I mean, I think we all agree that probably the biggest deciding factor in this commitment was the NIL bag that Missouri threw at him. But I've read that it's a non-binding contract, or this, that, and the other. I truly don't know, because if there's a possibility for this kid to just take the money and run, that would be hilarious, and that would be so funny. But like Jose says, there's got to be some way that they prevent that from happening, because that's a risk. But then what I said to counter that argument is they better, because I'm sure what I said was if Williams Nwaneri ends up being not very good, if he doesn't pan out like everybody thinks he's going to, and I'm not saying it's going to happen, but those NIL people, the collective and the donors and all this stuff, are going to try to weasel their way out of paying him, and I don't think that should be a thing either if he doesn't play well.
I'm with you there. There's a lot of questions that need to be answered with that NIL situation, and I mean, only time will tell at this point.
We need to get a lawyer on the show who has read the terms and conditions of this NIL
That's a good idea.
Agreement.
Do you think we could get the governor of Missouri on? Maybe he can explain it for us.
Does he have an ex? We could just DM him.
DMs, yeah.
I mean, why not? We can try. Maybe in a couple weeks we'll see the governor of Missouri on Two Plane Sports explaining the bullshit NIL rule he decided to pass.
We're going to say, is it possible for Nwaneri to just take the money and run from Missouri? And then if he says no, we'll just kick him off the show and go on with the program.
Right. See you, Governor. Nice talking.
Yeah, I think that's the way to do it.
I guess we'll see. Maybe the governor of Missouri will be on. All right, boys. Good show. We'll
Next
see
week
you.
is Game Day Eve live stream.
Yes, it is. So we'll be talking about the Arkansas State game. A reaction on David Stone. Hopefully he goes Oklahoma's way. And, we'll probably talk about
Get the guy from the Horns Down podcast. He is a lawyer. Jimmy is coming through all night. We just need to... All right.
We'll reach out to that guy and the governor, because I think it would be pretty cool to say we had a governor on the show. But
it would be.
We'll figure out who actually makes time for this dumbass podcast. Thank you guys all for watching.
And the manager of Sugars, the ex-manager of Sugars. If we can find a way to get him or her on here and talk about what went wrong there, because I think, dude, Sugars during NAL time, there's nothing. If I was a college kid, dude, I would lose my mind. Like to have, I'm Jackson Arnold and I go to Sugars. Like, oh my god, like Talladega Nights with Ricky Bobby. Hi, I'm Ricky Bobby. If you don't chew Big Red, then F you. Mine would just be, hi, I'm Jackson Arnold. And after the games, you can find me at Sugars. And, something like that. And you should be there, too. God, it would be fantastic. He could get into Sugars, right? At 18, or was that a 21 and up establishment?
It's 21.
Damn it. Alex, did you ever go to Sugars?
I did once.
Just once?
Not a big fan of you, man.
No, dude.
I agree. I'm with you. But Brandon was regular. He knew.
Dude, I would go
by
on
name.
Tuesday night if I wasn't feeling class ones or something. It was. I loved it in there, ripping darts and whatever's going on.
God, I only went one time, and it wasn't for me. The place was kind of gross. Not my vibe.
I do love Sugars, Keaton.
Maybe you can buy the name and then reopen the establishment.
It was a staple. I think it is sad that college kids, like the incoming class of 2027, unless they had relatives or family that had attended this prestigious university, they will not know what Sugars was or is. Like, I could just walk up to a class of 2027 kid and be like, dude, back in my day, we used to shut down Sugars. And he'd be like, what the hell is Sugars? And I would be like, this is why I'm not talking. Like, this. Get older.
I don't think they know what sugars is now, even if they did have relatives, because they were probably 12 when their relatives were in school.
I would make sure if I had a 12-year-old sibling who was now an incoming class of 2027 at OU that they knew what sugars was. They would not be that.
Give them a
that
history
kid
lesson.
who was unaware. Yeah.
Talk about
Remember
all the
Gina?
old bars. Remember what?
Gina was her name.
No.
One of the performers. She was the best one.
I remember our friend always talking about Gina, but I never had the pleasure of meeting Gina.
She was a lovely lady.
Was she now? Okay, then I think that's where we can end it. Great show. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn on the notification bell. So we do post videos throughout the week, and so that you know when we go live, which it will be next Tuesday at 8:30. So we'll see you then. Appreciate you watching. See you next time.